And that was the week before I was supposed to go on the weekend. I actually rang Shay up and said, you know what, I don't think it's the right place for me. I'm not into all this. Let's focus on lifting ourselves up. And I asked him, really, Shay, what am I going there for? And he said words to me which resonated with me. He said that he'd never seen anywhere else where heaven was brought to earth. But in my life, I was looking for that, and there was nowhere else that was offering heaven on earth. That bit where you can actually turn up, but the grace, acceptance, no judgment. You just don't find that in the open world.
Welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Well, welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. I'm Martin Brooker, one of your Crucible Project Podcast hosts. I'm delighted to have Nathaniel Harrison here from Western Australia, all the way down under, here for the podcast. Nathaniel, welcome.
Thank you, man.
Look, great to have you here. And we first met probably about 18 months ago when you were there for your first weekend. And I think a lot's happened for both of us since that time. But to get us started, I'd love it if you could share just a short version of the Nathaniel Harrison story.
So yeah, I'm a 70s baby, born in 75, travelling all over Australia following my dad as a postal manager around, lived in Bunbury, Merredin, Perth, Bridgetown, Albany. So we'll travel around Western Australia. Who am I? I'm a husband of Julie, father of 5 children, over 11 years. I'm in as a consultant in the construction industry. Mostly started up as a roof carpenter for 25 years and then moved into helping other people build houses and design them right, and that whole process of having to deal with a builder. Got to walk them through that.
Sounds like a pretty full life.
I keep myself very busy and varied, which is what I like, a bit of spice in life.
Well, look, I want to start with sort of, how did you find your way to your initial weekend and what was the catalyst for you going?
So, over a dozen years ago, within our church group, there was 4 of us, Grant Pearson, Shay Adams, who I believe's previously been on these podcasts, and another brother, Jonathan, that we all made ourselves accountable to each other to help speak into each other's lives, keep ourselves on track according to our own values. And over the years, we've been able to do that for each one of us, to step into each other's lives and speak there. But Grant and Shay have been trying to get me to join Crucible for at least a couple of years, maybe 3 years, before I actually intended. Might have been longer than that. I can be hard of hearing when I don't want to hear. And I'd actually helped Shay renovate his place, and we were there finishing filing things off, and he again brought it up and said, you really need to be here. And, I actually listened. Before I was stubborn, I had my hearing turned off and I wasn't ready to hear the invitation almost. But when he invited me that time, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it for you. And that's kind of the way I turned up for the weekend. I was there to do it for Shay, which was definitely not the best way to go into it.
What was going on in your life at that time where you finally thought, maybe I need to do this? I mean, Shay'd been encouraging you, but was there other stuff going in your life?
Well, leading up to that, I think the previous years, me and my wife went very close to bankruptcy. I partnered with the wrong people, left us hanging out. Me and my wife had come very close to breaking up as well, not because of the financial situations. We just sort of got through the financial situations, and then when the year something else came along to challenge us. And I think when Shay invited me that last time, everything was just going right in life. At that time, I probably needed it a lot more earlier, but I didn't feel like I needed it at this time. And I think that's when God says, you've still got a lot to work on, mate.
Yeah, sometimes it's about that opening our ears, isn't it? And being able to actually hear what's been said.
Yeah.
So going into a weekend like that where, I'm going for my brother and friend and, who I've known for many years, who I've been accountable for, and he suggested it. What did you actually find for yourself on that first weekend?
And that was the week before I was supposed to go on the weekend. I actually rang Shay up and said, you know what, I don't think it's the right place for me. I'm not into all this. Let's focus on lifting ourselves up. And I asked him, really, Shay, what am I going there for? And he said words to me which resonated with me because I've been following other speakers that had used these terms. I wanted that. He said that he'd never seen anywhere else where heaven was brought to earth. And I thought, well, that's actually what I want to do for others. So maybe I can just go along and learn that. And I actually found that. But in my life, I was looking for that, and there was nowhere else that was offering heaven on earth. That bit where you can actually turn up. We're still on earth, so we're still sinful, but the grace, acceptance, no judgment. You just don't find that in the open world.
That's powerful. And you having said that, I go, yep, actually I resonate with that. I'd not thought about it that way, but definitely now that I think about my own weekend and other weekends that I've been to on staff, that actually is exactly what it's like. Yeah, thank you. What was your experience of that honesty and grace and heaven on earth in that weekend for yourself?
Yeah, well, it's definitely life-changing. It opens up a new world for us that finally I have a place where I can be open, honest, authentic, and the only thing that comes back is acceptance, love, care, instead of judgment, criticism, which is what most of us are used to. Yeah.
Was there a challenge that you found that you, on that weekend, that you found for yourself that you perhaps hadn't thought was there?
Well, yeah. In my life, I've been involved in network marketing, which had a heavy focus, especially for me coming as a roof carpenter. I used to have my fringe down past my face, and I was a real Yahoo carpenter. I used to love being up on a roof, yelling and screaming and carrying on. I got into network marketing, which certainly knocked off a lot of edges and started me on that personal growth, which I've been passionate about personal growth for a long time. So this was like, yeah, I've done all my personal work. You know, I'm still reading all those books that we're supposed to read. I'm an avid reader, and I'm thinking, you know, I don't need another one of these things that does this. But coming to that weekend, it just opened up that other whole side of me that I was ignoring, that didn't, for my consciousness, didn't exist. And this opened it up and go, okay, yeah, I had all these shields up. I was a very arrogant person, but my arrogance was actually a shield for me, hiding the actual parts about me that I didn't want to admit, that I was actually not arrogant, I was actually cruel. I had that there because I was saying hurt people, you know, and I had wounds that I was covering up and being angry about and keeping people at a distance through the arrogance and being cruel because people have been cruel to me. So that was the way I projected and didn't even notice it. Wouldn't admit that to myself that I was cruel. I'm a nice guy, you know, like to tell ourselves that. But
it's interesting how we make up an identity for ourselves based upon a variety of things, and that actually the weekend can be a great way to actually understand more of what's underneath the lid, so to speak, you know, that may be driving some of those behaviours that we're either blind to or, you know, we're not prepared to listen to about.
Absolutely. I think as we go through life, I remember hurting myself at school. I was at stripped over and I'd already hurt myself previously, and I cried in front of my schoolmates in high school. At a new high school, just moved to the new country town. I'm like, oh, that's not good. So my psyche straight away has switched off the ability to move into the emotion of sadness. It always moved me straight into no, show anger. Anger is more acceptable for a young man to show than there's sadness. So having the tools now to be able to go, actually, no, what am I feeling right now? That's actually sadness, not anger. And be able to move into that emotion is great for my wife. She loves it. Learning to live with that part of myself as well.
You mentioned your wife having completed the weekend. What did you find yourself needing to do when you returned home with, you know, your wife and your 5 kids?
Oh, so sorry. Sorry is definitely the first thing. Definitely give her a hug, and it gave me a new appreciation for what she was having to deal with me. Like, oh, you've been dealing with all this part of me that I've been ignoring, and you've been seeing this for a long time. I'm sorry I didn't recognize this before. And, she saw the change pretty quickly in me, that I was prepared to now own that and work on that. I think for all of us, once we're willing to admit that actually that is a part of me that's not a part that I actually want to be a part of me, although it might have been there for a reason, all those parts of me my psyche's created it to protect me from past hurts. It's still something that I needed to work on and go, is it serving me the way I want it to serve me right now? Picking up those tools is very helpful. And being a carpenter, I love my tools.
Alexander Maslow said, if the hammer's the only tool you have, then every problem in front of you seems like a nail.
And that's definitely the way I was going through life. Learning to pick up these new tools has been fantastic to me, and there's so many of them.
Yeah. And what about with your children? I mean, you got 5 children, and what's been changed there for you in terms of how you're a father?
My story as a father is even different to what my friends would say. My first son was academic award achiever. He was just bright and smart. My first daughter was so caring. So she was getting service award at school. My middle son, Jonathan's just a deep thinker and very self-disciplined. We got 3 kids and we're like, this parenting stuff's easy. And then along came character development child, Tobias, and he's very much like me, and we clash. And I was like, oh, here's where that growth is that all the other parents were talking about. I was lucky to have Toby come along to help me grow. And Toby is such a blessing to my life. That stubbornness that he brings and reflects in me is, I didn't want to admit that I was like that even. And the weekend has now given me a lot more tools to connect with him. And it's not happening as fast as I would like, because I had all those years without these tools that developed that way. So it's taking a while to work down, but I'm seeing it, and I'm blessed by it, loving that relationship with my son and my youngest daughter, Eliana. I've got a closeness that I didn't have with the older ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about being part of the Crucible Project and that sort of weekend is that some of the benefits that come out of it are not ones that you imagine when you first go into it. I mean, the story I make up is that you would probably not have thought that this was going to have an impact on your children. You were just doing it for your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And although that's the important part, I have found the way this has impacted me at work has been noticeable, not just by me, but by people that work with me. The way that I show up at work as well, and my focus on work. I was such a workaholic, saying yes to everything. I've managed to cut that back now, and the work that comes in now is actually a lot more rewarding, both financially and personally, with a whole lot less effort, I guess, and stress. I'm a lot less stressful these days. Yeah, it's just recognizing there's some parts of me being able to show up in a good way, in a I'm just here to do everything for you. When you show up like that, everybody in the story I'm telling myself is that there people will take when you're offer. Being able to have proper boundaries and set healthy boundaries right from the start helps in all areas of your life.
It sounds to me like, you're turning up being more present for not only your family, but also for those clients and the people you work with.
Yes, my clients become friends in a healthier way these days. Yeah, it's been very good, very rewarding.
It's about 18 months since you did your first weekend. If you've continued to go back and do other weekends as well as staff in the weekend, why has that been important to be part of the community ongoing past the weekend?
Because on my weekend, heaven was brought to earth for me, and that's my mission and purpose now, to bring heaven and earth to others. And when you see that happen from my first staffing weekend last November, to see that I could be a small part of that for somebody else, it was for the first time I felt recognised by God that I could be a part of his work, and that is a blessing like no other.
Yeah, there's certainly that opportunity to find clarity around what God's purpose in our life is, isn't it, from these weekends?
Absolutely. And when we see men changing in front of us, not by our work, but through the Holy Spirit that's working through us, it is amazing. It's an honour. I'm all in. I've got the number plate on my car.
Yeah, right.
It says on it.
What does the number plate say?
My number plate is TCP, the Crucible Project. Brother. Crucible Project.
Yeah,
brother
right.
Now. That's all I must say everywhere I go now. That's who I am.
That's very cool. What else are you finding that you've learned from the Crucible experience in terms of in your workplace or in your community and church? Probably
the big thing in both being a parent and at work was showing up with integrity, owning my faults where I let down people. Sometimes I'll be running late because I'll keep myself too busy running late, and it's like, oh, we had this issue. There's always an excuse rather than just being able to step into it and own it. And through being able to own that, I feel better about myself now. Admitting our faults is shameful. And I've found, no, it's the opposite. There's strength in being able to own my faults. I'm actually a stronger man now than what I was before this. And I always thought I had great integrity, but this really shines a light on it. Having integrity has definitely been a big one for me. Learning to let go of stuff has been great for me. I was always that's my idea. That's the way we're doing it. I'm the boss, right? I've been a boss since before I finished my own apprenticeship. I went into partnership with one of my hirers at the time. We went into partnership and I was hiring other apprentices before I finished. And I had that arrogant boss like that is well accepted and looked up on within the construction industry. Just being able to let go of having to do things my way has been an absolute blessing as well, and brings peace from my life.
It's the construction industry, of course, is a pretty tough industry and tends to be male-dominated. At least it has been for most of the years that I've been around. I know that's shifting now. How have people responded to this change in Nathaniel?
From the first weekend, my main offsider was like, "Oh, you're going off to a cult," and I don't know what I was going off to, so I wasn't going to argue with that. And the very next weekend that we had, that offsider joined us as a non-Christian and stepped out saying that he also wanted more of what I had. He wanted the faith in God that I had as a non-Christian, saying, "Hey, what you got from that last weekend? I need more of that in my life." And seeing that change in him, all that hits you in the heart, just changing that one man's life. Forever grateful to the Crucible Project, what it does.
Wow. So Nathaniel, I understand your wife has also done the Crucible Project Project Weekend for Women. What's it been like as a couple to now have both been through that weekend together?
Give me a history of me and my wife. She's a music player. She is beautiful and wonderfully talented in music. I am not. She lives in the world of classical music, and I do not. I'm definitely not in that side. I'm more sort of heavy rock and stuff like that. And so in most of our lives, we are very, very different. It is such a blessing to be on the same page with something and be passionate about something together. And seeing my wife has just completed her first second level weekend, which was back to back with the staffing weekend. Just seeing, for me, it's leaps and bounds that she is taking in her personal growth. I've always known the woman my wife was and could be, and seeing her now step into that, grateful, blessed. I've become, again, from the day that we got married, the luckiest man on the planet. All my mates know how lucky I am. I can turn up to any door prize and I'll win it every time. It's like, yeah, well, I'm lucky you've met my wife. I'm definitely punching above my weight. And seeing the growth my wife has had, and therefore the growth we've had together, that's invaluable. People go through their whole lives just looking for that connection that I just feel so grateful that we have.
Yeah. What to wrap up, is there a question that I haven't asked today that we need to ask or answer?
I think for all of these questions, that, as we say, the journey continues. And I think the question I would ask listeners are thinking about whether they've done the Crucible or they're thinking about doing the Crucible is, do you have anything else in your life right now that is offering you the blessings that I've just talked about, the blessings of personal growth in a completely non-judgmental, really is heaven brought to earth for that moment. It's not the answer for every little thing. It's not going to make you grow if you're not willing to grow. You've got to show up for yourself and be willing to do that. But if you have nothing else in your life that is helping give you the tools to do that, then I think you've found a toolbox that you need for right now.
So if somebody was thinking about attending an initial weekend, what would you say to them?
Yeah, be ready to change your life, because it will change, especially if you're open to it. And for my first weekend, I sort of alluded to that at the start of this, that I turned up for somebody else. Turn up for yourself. You're worth it. Be prepared to do the work, whatever is asked. Just trust the process, because it's helping hundreds of men all over the world and bringing blessing. So be open to it, be ready to grow, and be ready to bless.
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. Thanks for giving up your time today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I look forward to catching up with you, and we've got plans to catch up later in the year when you come to the east coast of Australia for our first weekend on the east coast, which is super exciting, and can't wait to hang out and bless a new group of men in that weekend. So again, thank you for being here today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. Or if you're ready to get started on your transformational journey right now, you can connect with one of our Crucible certified coaches for a free 30-minute session at thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. That's thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. If you like what you heard, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening, and don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you for listening.